KCAA.
The following program is produced by the AM First Radio Network and distributed by Global American Broadcasting, the GAB Radio Network.
Welcome to Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali and the Justice Watch crew. Rosa Nunez, Dr. Akil Bashir, Michael Bilal Clark, and Andrea Rodeman. This week, like every week, we'll be discussing critical legal and social justice issues that are impacting our community. Are we coming through over here?
Yes.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, we had some technical difficulties this week, so we're just trying to make sure that we're straight. So I want to begin by saying Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. Happy Father's Day to you, Doc.
You too, bro.
And Bilal, who's not with us today, and all the fathers out there. So that was the focus of our show today, was Father's Day. So I was kind of like going to wing it on that issue. But one of the things that I did want to talk about yesterday, because Joe mentioned it, I'm going to let Joe blame it on Joe. But anyway, I want to talk about Juneteenth, right? So for those of you who do not know, Juneteenth actually is it's actually called Black Independence Day, right? And it's now a federal holiday. It was signed into law. When was it? Sometimes last week?
Yeah.
When it was signed into law?
As a holiday? Yeah.
Yeah, commemorating the emancipation of enslaved African Americans. It is also often observed for celebrating African American culture. So it originated in Galveston, Texas. It has been celebrated annually on June the 19th in various parts of the United States since 1866, actually. The emancipation was recognized as a federal holiday on June the 17th, 2021, when President Joe Biden signed the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act into law. It commemorates that on this day, anniversary date of June 19, 1865, the announcement of General Order Number 3 by Union Army General Gordon Granger proclaiming and enforcing the freedom of enslaved people in Texas, which was the last state of the Confederacy with institutional slavery. So just keeping in mind that Emancipation Proclamation was signed September the 22nd, 1862, then I guess the whole idea was the last slaves were freed on this particular date, which would have been June. Actually, the general order was signed it was June the 19th, 1865, which was almost 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. So they signed that into law, so I guess they call themselves, am I going to be a brat today? You know what I mean? I'm gonna be a brat today, rain on everybody's parade about, Rightfully
so.
What I kind of want to, one of the things that I want to talk about is that, I don't want to diminish the significance of anything that anybody's done. So, I guess we can say I appreciate that. But one of the things is that we have to stop being satisfied with symbolism.
Yes.
Yes. The question is, why doesn't he sign into bill reparations, which Joe and I spoke about that before, we came on the air. So why don't we do that? This is something that a quote by Malcolm X. He says, "The white man will try to satisfy us with symbolic victories rather than economic equity and real justice."
True.
Right?
Yeah.
Instead of,
True.
rather than economic equity and real justice, we're talking about symbolic victories. And so, we really are into this whole thing about, we spend a lot of time about, naming certain streets, naming certain areas, naming certain buildings. We really are, those tend to be something that's traditionally been extremely important to us. right? Extremely important. I mean, there's no reason for it not to necessarily be important, but I think that what's equally important is that we see some real significant progress and significant things that we're getting instead of just like the symbolic, Juneteenth. Why doesn't he doesn't even talk about reparations? Has he have any real serious discussion about that?
Nope.
Not that I know of.
No, I mean, so I think that that's something that we have to begin to start asking for when we start looking at other, marginalized communities and how they were given a significant amount of money for different things. When it comes to us, all they want to do is just give us some sort of holiday or give us some sort of way of celebrating and something that's, some sort of symbolic, representation instead of just actually, giving us something that's meaningful. I mean, that discussion, you can't even, we don't even hear him coming out, and I've talked about this for the last several weeks about the fact that he doesn't even come out and even address some of the issues, even police brutality. We haven't even seen him really come out in a very, strong and way of denouncing the act and the fact that the government is going to do something about that. We haven't even heard anything like that. And I think that's important because I think that sets, some way it does have an impact on policy. Even I think something should be signed into law, but even just the discussion, because I heard earlier that Kamala Harris says that they can't do anything just for African Americans. Have you heard that?
Yeah.
But we definitely have had things done specifically for other individuals, like the hate crime bill that was signed against the Asian Americans.
Yeah.
And he specifically addressed the issue of Asian Americans. But we don't have anything that addresses the issue about specifically, for African Americans. So, I mean, before we go into the discussion about, I want to talk quite a bit. I don't want to take up the whole time on this topic, but it's for me, working, dealing with criminal justice every day and dealing with the legal system every day. I'm just reminded on a daily basis about just how much the issue of discrimination and all those things that we dealt with the past, how things haven't really changed quite that much. And it's a daily thing. It's not something that for some people, it may not be something that they don't necessarily see, but I'm just dealing with people on a daily basis that are dealing with these types of issues. And they're so obvious, right? About the way that they're dealing with us. Even when I think about, all the way back to, you ever heard that expression, Karen?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
I mean, I deal with that all the time. I mean, that you have certain individuals who make certain allegations against African Americans, and the criminal justice will just assume, based upon the fact that you have a black person being accused by someone who especially if it's a black man, and they're accused, especially by someone who happens to not be who happens to be a white woman or a white man or somebody that's not from a marginalized community, and just assume it isn't true and just drag them through this criminal justice system. I'm venting right now.
No, you're telling the truth.
You know what I mean? So, I mean, it's there's a lot of changes that need to be made, and we won't ever get any really serious change unless we really take some serious action. And as long as we're being satisfied, we let them off. I mean, we had this momentum going on when, you had the Trump situation, and everybody was involved in politics and complaining and marching and doing everything. And as soon as he gets out of office and then, you get Joe Biden in. He says, I can, it's like I think so little of these people that I can just satisfy them with like little symbolism, like their children, right? Like I'm just going to give them a holiday. You know what I mean? And then they give us a holiday on Father's Day. So almost, you know what I mean, the day before holiday. But, it's just those type of little things that are annoying, and thinking that they can, not really address our real issues. That's annoying to me. We those things have to change. I mean, we have to begin to start talking about economic justice in this country. And we're not getting that economic justice. They owe us money. Right?
Lot of money.
And then, so the thing is that instead of us going around and asking them to name certain buildings or name certain bridges and name this and name that, cut me that check. Huh? Why don't we go and say, cut me that check? That money is owed. That debt needs to be paid.
That's right.
Now, don't just give me some sort of holiday and, some Juneteenth, and you know what I mean? I mean, that's easy. You're signing, I mean, it's almost in a way insulting. Sign the bill, but on top of the signing the bill, then what about everything else that needs to go along with that? That means that I'm going to seriously, I don't want to hear about a study about reparations. There don't need to be a study on reparations. First thing that you need to do is just say there are going to be reparations. Don't give my money to some other puppet that you're going to find to make a determination as to how I'm going to spend it. Just give me my cash. But anyway, please do not touch that dial. We'll be back on the other side of the break with Justice.
Idea for a radio show but have no idea where to start? Or have you been hosting a podcast for a while and want to take it to the next level? If so, you need the Gab Radio Network. To host a show on the Gab Radio Network, all you need is your voice, and we'll handle the rest. From technical engineering to full-service audio production, and much more. Every show on the Gab Radio Network can be heard on our station on the TuneIn Radio app. Plus, we put all of our shows on our satellite, which is accessed by over 5,500 stations. And here's the best part. You can host from anywhere you want. There are many means to connect to the Gab Radio Network remotely, and our staff of highly trained engineers and producers will make you sound like you're right here in studio. So, if you want to be on the Gab Radio Network, the same network that hosts the Small Business Advocate, Radio MD, and the Federalist, send an email right now to sales@gabradionetwork.com. That's sales@gabradionetwork.com.
New Bean Pictures presents a CCM Films production documentary entitled Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. This emotional and strong documentary tells the story of African-American lawyer Zulu Ali, seeking justice and his purpose as a lawyer, while crossing paths with Araceli, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico who is seeking her freedom. Together, they help discover their purpose and freedom in each other. Watch this incredible film today from iTunes Movies, YouTube Movies, Amazon Prime, and Google Play Movies. Learn about the cast and crew, links to purchase, and more at purposeandfreedommovie.com. Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. Available now. Rated G.
I did not feel safe. That's why I decided to come to California, because I didn't feel safe in Mexico.
It's kind of like the system, and if you go outside the system, then it becomes a struggle.
Are you an immigrant seeking defense representation and are looking to protect your rights? Or maybe someone who is experiencing an injustice or discrimination and need a lawyer you can trust? Well, that's exactly why you need the help of award-winning trial lawyer Zulu Ali. The law offices of Zulu Ali provides immigration defense representation for those seeking justice and looking to protect their rights. If you or a loved one needs professional legal advice and representation, then contact Zulu Ali. Zulu Ali's firm focuses on criminal law, family law, civil and personal injury, and international law. Zulu Ali is a former police officer and U.S. Marine, so you know you're in good hands. Serving all of California and immigration cases nationwide, representing victims and suspects at the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Call Zulu Ali today at 888-682-3049 or visit ZuluAliLaw.com.
Welcome back to Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali and the Justice Watch crew, where we're having our Father's Day special broadcast. And in the first segment, we did talk a little bit about Juneteenth, which was yesterday and had been actually signed into law, I think maybe 2 days before the actual holiday. And so I guess I should say happy Juneteenth, but I think that we should start, lobbying for Reparations Day. That should be the next thing. The Reparations Day should have came with Juneteenth. But now, talk a little bit about Father's Day. And Father's Day is a holiday that at least it was first celebrated in the United States for the first time in 1910. And it's a holiday honoring fatherhood and paternal bonds, as well as the influence of fathers in society. Mm-hmm. Very important holiday. I mean, it is not like, Mother's Day, man. I think that's another thing. We need to talk about the way we get treated, man. That's just not cool. You know what I mean? I was looking at somebody the other day, you can't, you can, on Mother's Day, you can't even, get a reservation at a restaurant. On Father's Day, man, they got so many seats available.
Yes,
ain't nothing. Mothers get it all, man. Get those nice necklaces, and and fathers, they get socks and boxes, right?
If they're lucky.
If they're lucky, you know what I'm saying? They won't give us no love, huh? We don't get that kind of love. I don't know what's up with that. Talk to me about that. Huh?
No, I want to go back to reparations, though, Brother Ali, because it's too important, man. And I think you hit it spot on. Look, if you were truly trying to ask forgiveness for a thing, the first thing you have to do is ask for atonement. There's been no atonement to the devastating wrongs that was done to us. And if you go back and look at the concept of 20 acres and a mule, which was much more than 20 acres and a mule in actuality, the mule was a part of a much larger concession that they were supposed to give up. But you look at the disparity in wealth in this country for African Americans. If we had gotten what was just due way back in the day when slavery was eradicated, there would not be a gap in the wealth system in this country. And so much of what has happened to us as a people to keep us in a degraded state of being comes from the fact that this wealth disparity is what it is. Had justification been done when it was supposed to be done, we would be on so many levels in a position of equality to do what needs to be done in this country. So much more than just the concept of a freeing of an individual. And then what the hell you got to free us from anyway? We shouldn't have ever been enslaved in the first dang place. And you talk about freeing me? We didn't come here enslaved. We were enslaved when we arrived in this country. We weren't slaves when we got here. So I better drop it on that. Go ahead, Rosa. Kick on in.
Well, I mean, I couldn't agree more that we need to steer away from the symbolism and falling for the crumbs in a way of action that we're getting from this administration currently, because it's not only that they're going back on the promises that they made in their campaign, because they did make some promises and they did use some language that was, it gave us an idea of, well, they're going to do something for us, but they haven't done anything. And I think that it's really going to be up to us as a community to unite as a community and unite our resources in order to be able to get some change in this country. We are literally asking an individual who was put in place by people and corporations and by individuals that were funded by the elite. And I think that we need to realize that we're trying to be included in a system that was codified to be against us. And until we change that, nothing's going to change.
Right. So I guess to put it in perspective, let's talk about the racial wealth gap.
Mm-hmm.
Says that the typical black family has just 1/10 of the wealth
Mm-hmm.
of the typical white family.
1/10.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In 1863, black Americans owned 1/2 of 1% of the national wealth. Today, it's just 1.5%.
Mm-hmm.
So we've only gone a point, less than a percent in the increase in the wealth gap since the Emancipation Proclamation. I mean, since Reconstruction, since just leaving slavery. So we came out of slavery when it comes to the wealth gap, where with almost the same numbers, and obviously there's an obvious reason why that rate, why that gap is there.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, again, going back to a lot of it clearly it's on them, but a lot of it is on us because of the way that we allow them to do the things that they do. I mean, we aren't very aggressive. I don't understand why why do we still fall for the same trick?
Exactly.
I mean, it's almost like we continue to do the exact same thing and follow the exact same pattern when it comes to getting what belongs to us. When instead of just keeping our pressure on, like had we kept the pressure on after the election, it's almost like everything's back to normal, back to usual. The numbers are still the same. Black folks aren't any more wealthy today than they were when Trump came into office. Police brutality is pretty much the same. So nothing's really changed other than the fact that you just don't want to hear it. It's just not right in your face, but it still exists. And to get us to understand that we need to stop just falling for the same old thing. And I'm always reminded, and I'm always taken back, about how much, how we're treated in such a way, so how obvious it is. You know what I mean? And, I talked about the issue about the Karen situation, and I'm talking about it just simply because it's just something that happened, recently, but something that happens all the time when it comes to, the justice system, since we're Justice Watch, and talking about the fact that, we still have the same thing going on in all of the institutions, the courts, on the street, in law enforcement. It's all still the same, but yet and still we tend to move at snail's pace. And I'm the type of person who believes that if you're going to move, you got to move with a sense of urgency.
Yes, sir.
So we're not moving we moved in a sense of urgency when it came to Trump and getting him out of office. But after he gets out of office, we continue to move at snail's pace. And if you move at snail's pace, then you will never succeed at anything. You know what I mean? Moving with a sense of urgency is an extremely important element to success. And we're not doing that. We're just moving slow. We're still hoping something will come instead of going out and doing the same intensity. We should be on the president's behind the same way we were on Trump's behind. When it comes to what is it that the president is giving us now that Trump didn't get? What's the difference? Other than the fact that you didn't hear him tweeting and texting and Twittering and all this other stuff. He's just telling you how they feel, and now we got a situation where it's just kept quiet. I mean, so I don't understand it. I don't get it, and I think that what is it going to take to put that fire behind these individuals to go out and hold this party, responsible.
Nationally syndicated radio program that's sweeping the nation, and you don't want to miss it. Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali, the voice of justice for the people. The focus of Justice Watch is to provide an honest analysis and viable solutions to the criminal and social justice crisis in America and the world from a Black, brown, working class, and socially disadvantaged perspective, and to motivate listeners to be informed and part of the solution. Zulu Ali is joined by the Justice Crew, consisting of Rosa Nunez, Michael Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, and Charito Ali to tackle the most pressing issues. Host Attorney Zulu Ali is a former police officer, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, and an award-winning trial lawyer who focuses on representing persons accused of crimes, immigrants, victims of discrimination, and persons seeking civil justice. Find out how to listen to Justice Watch with Attorney Zulu Ali at justicewatchradio.com. New Beam Pictures presents a CCM Films production documentary entitled Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. This emotional and strong documentary tells the story of African-American lawyer Zulu Ali seeking justice and his purpose as a lawyer while crossing paths with Araceli, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico who is seeking her freedom. Together, they help discover their purpose and freedom in each other. Watch this incredible film today from iTunes Movies, YouTube Movies, Amazon Prime, and Google Play Movies. Learn about the cast and crew, links to purchase, and more at purposeandfreedommovie.com. Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. Available now. Rated G.
I did not feel safe. That's why I decided to come to California, because I didn't feel safe in Mexico.
It's kind of like the system, and if you go outside the system, then it becomes a struggle.
Are you an immigrant seeking defense representation and are looking to protect your rights? Or maybe someone who is experiencing an injustice or discrimination and need a lawyer you can trust? Well, that's exactly why you need the help of award-winning trial lawyer Zulu Ali. The law offices of Zulu Ali provides immigration defense representation for those seeking justice and looking to protect their rights. If you or a loved one needs professional legal advice and representation, then contact Zulu Ali. Zulu Ali's firm focuses on criminal law, family law, civil and personal injury, and international law. Zulu Ali is a former police officer and U.S. Marine, so you know you're in good hands. Serving all of California and immigration cases nationwide, representing victims and suspects at the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Call Zulu Ali today at 888-682-3049 or visit ZuluAliLaw.com.
Welcome back to Justice Watch with Attorney Zulu Ali and the Justice Watch crew, where we're in our special Father's Day broadcast. So, fathers, I mean, we obviously have an audience that's made quite a few comments, and I appreciate the comments where we talk about the significance and the importance of fathers as we go back and we talk about the role that fathers play in our community. Mm-hmm. The fact that and not only just fathers, but just, the ones who were in the homes, but the ones that are not, in the homes as well. Those who actually stand to be a role model for other people, letting young men know what it's like to be a leader in the home and a leader in the community, because as a father, not only are you touching, your own children in your own home, trust me, there's somebody else that's actually watching what you're doing, mm-hmm. And watching, and which is, and we don't give fathers in general and especially Black fathers credit, I believe, that they deserve. I think that oftentimes we tend to mm-hmm. want to hold certain individuals up on a pedestal, but the person, and we tend to honor people for things that that are not quite as important as it is to be a man in the household. I think that for me personally, there's nothing more important to me than my role as a father. Being a father to my children, and that's extremely important. And it's extremely important that, I feel like I have an obligation not only to my own children, but I got an obligation to my community and other individuals who are watching me and watching, how I move, that they know, that to have the discipline to be the man that you're supposed to be in your own household, as opposed to, being a champion. We can always talk about being a champion for everybody else, but the real question, are you the champion for your own children, and the champion for your children in your own in your own household? I mean, there's people that we praise for things, and they may not. I don't. I'm just using an example. They may not be a great father at home. They may not be, the man that they're supposed to be in the household, the man that they're supposed to be to their children, the man they're supposed to be to their wives. Those things are really important. And we don't, and sometimes, I remember I was listening to one of my imams, named Siraj Wahaj, where he was talking. He actually has a Juma or lecture that he did, and he talked about, he's saying a champion to the world, but he talked about the fact that, well, I'm a champion to the world, but I could have been a better father to my children at home while I'm doing all these things, for other people. You know what I'm saying? So, I think that's where it starts. That's where it's important to make sure that and I think that would actually be part of a large part of what would help our communities to, become better and become more positive about how we talk about the way that what kind of family man are you, what type of father are you? You know what I'm saying? When you think about the awards that people get, and I always do that because we do hold people up to a pedestal. My question is, what type of father and husband is he?
First.
That's the question. What type of father? I mean, you may have gold records. You may have led people to the promised land. But if you're not a champion for your spouse and a champion for your children, then it doesn't matter. I would much rather it be a man that is the man he's supposed to be in his household, taking care of his family, than the other. I mean, that's the important thing, and I think those are the things that we should focus on. I mean, and also the way that we as men demean women. I mean, that's a huge issue. And so on one hand, you're going to, and all those things, it begins with when our young men, the way that they see the world and the way they move, a lot of it has to do with the way we move. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so, that's the issue that we have with the way that people are being raised, and the way that men are acting, the way you're interacting with people. So those are the things that I would like to, that's the stuff that I preach to people, is just what type of man are you? How do you take care of and we get away with that. We don't spend that time. I mean, how often have you ever seen an award where we spend a lot of time talking about the wife is talking about the husband, or the children are talking about the father? Where do we see that at in our community?
Never.
I mean, it's few and far between, and that's part of the problem that we have in our community.
But Brother Ali, fatherhood is not a given. Fatherhood is a process of self-mastery. Brother Naeem Akbar expresses it so well in Community of Self when he talks about the continuum of malehood to malehood to manhood. And when our boys our young men are not taken through that process, they stay in a regurgitated state of immaturity. And I think that's what we see, unfortunately, in so many of the Black and brown communities. I was fortunate to have my father, even though my mother and father divorced early in the process. I always tell people my father taught me how to be a man, but my mother taught me how to take a stand. And when you look at it, to your point, foundationally, especially with our young men, they are molded as to what they see in our actions, not what we say, is what we do. And if they don't get a chance to see that reflectorial imagery of what they're supposed to be, at the end of the day, they're going to lean and go for that which is around them, that what they're comfortable with, and that of their peer environment. And unfortunately, I think that's the degradation of so many of the young men in our communities never reaching that state of manhood. Fatherhood is really off the limit because they have no idea what it means to be a father.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I think I couldn't agree more in that. Too often we celebrate individuals for their career achievements, but we never celebrate individuals for their family achievements. You know, too often we don't celebrate people for, I didn't take this position or I didn't take this because I wanted to be more present. I wanted to be a more present father. And also we don't talk about the 1.8 million solo dads that there is in America.
Think about
you know, there's fathers who are doing it alone. And honestly, praise to them because it's not easy. And obviously, we do have a lot of absent fathers, 7 million in America, that aren't in the house, and that's definitely affecting our youth. But I think that these are things that we don't often talk about and that are important to be talked about because that's really what makes our community. And education comes from home. You know, the way we react in the outer world comes from our parents and the family that we grow up in, and just how important that is, and to examine that family structure and really work on that before trying to work on other things in our community is also something that we should be talking about.
Yeah, I mean that definitely has to be an extremely important process that we go through when we're talking to people, and you know, I think that sometimes, you know, having the wrong, at least for me, I mean, I grew up in a single parent home. And the person that I was able to watch move primarily was, you know, my grandfather, who, you know, basically, you know, that's why for me, what's really important and the thing that is hard to get across is that although you see dads in the home, you don't see that level of discipline when it comes to, the father. Why is it that oftentimes, you know, you'll see like for me personally, and I said this before, growing up in a single parent household, I had a lot more discipline than many of my friends who had fathers in the household. You know, the father was there, but they still knuckleheads.
Yeah.
And I think that what happened is that, you know, so it's not, you going back to the point, it's not just having the father there, but it's also having a positive father. You know, I knew, you know, my work ethic, you know, when my work ethic compared to most of the people that I knew that had fathers in the home, they were, you know, babies. You know, I had, when we were talking about, you remember the other week, I was telling you, it was Mother's Day. And I was telling you about how at the age of 13, I was in hayfields. I had the work ethic that I had compared to the work ethic of most of my friends who came from homes of both parents was way different. You know what I mean? But, you know, I got that from my mother and I got that from my grandfather as well. And so, and discipline, you know what I mean? So part of being a father is not just being present, but I mean, a lot of it has to do with the fact of how do you move? I mean, we have fathers, you know, we have fathers that baby their kids. You got them, they're not even, you know what I'm saying? And they're having children that they're not taking care of. So you got that example in the household, but why isn't just that example, you know, going to translate into, you know, giving the example to the other generations? But at any rate, man, I think that wasn't long enough, that segment. But at any rate, I think you cut me off on that. But at any rate, please do not touch that dial. We'll be back on the other.
New nationally syndicated radio program that's sweeping the nation, and you don't want to miss it. Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali, the voice of justice for the people. The focus of Justice Watch is to provide an honest analysis and viable solutions to the criminal and social justice crisis in America and the world from a black, brown, working class, and socially disadvantaged perspective, and to motivate listeners to be informed and part of the solution. Zulu Ali is joined by the Justice Crew, consisting of Rosa Nunez, Michael Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, and Charito Ali to tackle the most pressing issues. Host Attorney Zulu Ali is a former police officer, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, and an award-winning trial lawyer who focuses on representing persons accused of crimes, immigrants, victims of discrimination, and persons seeking civil justice. Find out how to listen to Justice Watch with Attorney Zulu Ali at justicewatchradio.com. New Beam Pictures presents a CCM Films production documentary entitled Purpose and Freedom. Keep Your Hand on the Plow. This emotional and strong documentary tells the story of African-American lawyer Zulu Ali seeking justice and his purpose as a lawyer while crossing paths with Araceli, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico who is seeking her freedom. Together, they help discover their purpose and freedom in each other. Watch this incredible film today from iTunes Movies, YouTube Movies, Amazon Prime, and Google Play Movies. Learn about the cast and crew, links to purchase, and more at purposeandfreedommovie.com. Purpose and Freedom. Keep your hand on the plow. Available now. Rated G.
I did not feel safe. That's why I decided to come to California, because I didn't feel safe in Mexico.
It's kind of like the system, and if you go outside the system, then it becomes a struggle.
Are you an immigrant seeking defense representation and are looking to protect your rights? Or maybe someone who is experiencing an injustice or discrimination and need a lawyer you can trust? Well, that's exactly why you need the help of award-winning trial lawyer Zulu Ali. The law offices of Zulu Ali provides immigration defense representation for those seeking justice and looking to protect their rights. If you or a loved one needs professional legal advice and representation, then contact Zulu Ali. Zulu Ali's firm focuses on criminal law, family law, civil and personal injury, and international law. Zulu Ali is a former police officer and U.S. Marine, so you know you're in good hands. Serving all of California and immigration cases nationwide, representing victims and suspects at the International Criminal Court at The Hague. Call Zulu Ali today at 888-682-3049 or visit ZuluAliLaw.com.
Okay. I'm looking at one of these comments that says, no, it should be good fathers matter. A bad father can crush a child's life forever. Did you see that?
No, I haven't even.
You responded to it, I think, right? On this one. You see that? No?
Oh, Tanmoy?
Yeah. I thought that was amusing. But yeah, welcome back to our special Father's Day segment of Justice Watch. And I think before we went to the break, we were talking about the significance of fatherhood and the roles I believe that fathers play in the lives of not only the children that they raise, but also, you know, the example that they provide to other people and those around them. So I think that's important. And again, I think, you know, I cannot stress it enough. It's, you know, I don't understand why we do not spend more time, you know, honoring men, you know, that do what they're supposed to do. Mm-hmm. And I think sometimes whenever it's misdirected, you know, there's people that obviously in our community, I mean, I want to know what forum and what platform do we do that? When you look at the history books and when you look at history, where do we talk about that issue? Huh?
Well, we don't. Doesn't it go against the grain of the Western culture? Look, brother, you know as well as I do. I've been a father for over 45 years. You know, fatherhood is hard as the dickens, but it's probably the most rewarding thing on the face of this earth. And when you talk about fatherhood, when you talk about the Western culture in general, you know, that mantra of the bravo, of the 2, 3, 4 women, etc., in our community, the staple has always been the foundation of the family. And when that's not articulated, when that's not brought to the table, I think we lose the core anchor and what has kept black families together for centuries in this country. That was the only thing that kept us together when we were able to during slavery. So I think we really have to get to a point to where the essence of fatherhood is truly rewarded for what it is, because it's probably the most hardest and most rewarding job that a man can do in this society.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, regarding that comment, that obviously fatherless home affect our youth. It's evident that not being a present father has a direct effect on youth. I mean, 63% of youth suicides are from fatherless homes. 90% of our homeless and runaway children are from fatherless homes.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about fatherless homes here, not motherless homes.
Right.
85% of all children who show behavior disorders come from fatherless homes. 80% of rapists with anger problems come from fatherless homes. These are all staggering statistics that show that, having a present father in the home is certainly important, and not having one directly affects the community, our world, America, the United States. You talk about all these shootings, you talk about all these youth who are not, don't have this work ethic that they should have. You talk about these youth who are not creating movements that are creating change. Well, what's the root of that?
Yeah.
If not a fatherless home, if not parents that are not instructing their children, to do the right thing out there.
But to Ali's point, brother, and those outstanding statistics, Rosa, who is there for the father? I mean, to Brother Ali's point, when he talked about the father not being honored, etc., the pain, the trauma, the mental health of black fathers especially, who is there for them? We have never had a resiliency, a safety net to secure black fathers and fathers of color when we are up against the type of societal trauma while we're trying to take care of our family, while we're trying to deal with the systemic racism, while we're trying to deal with the lack of employment. We have never had a resilient safety net, and we have had to lift each other up, and it's been a very demonstrative process.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely isn't a society, even in our own culture. I mean, we spend a lot of time, honoring people for, many different things, but we do not really take the time to honor that. I mean, I think that we tend to, there's a lot of flossing in the community. It's almost like it's to a point where it's not even embarrassing to not be a good father. It's more embarrassing to be poor. It's more embarrassing to not have a good job. It's more embarrassing to not have a good car. It's more embarrassing to not have a nice home.
That's true.
Not have nice clothing. Those are the things that are embarrassing, the material things. But it's never embarrassing for someone to not be in the home, with his children and with their children. I mean, that's not an embarrassing thing. I mean, we actually have Fortune 5. We write articles on men who are wealthy. We write articles on men who are success in their careers. We write articles on men who are great athletes or great entertainers. We have award shows for those issues. Even when we do the hoodie awards, that when they did them, nobody talked about a father. But the most important person in the entire community, without question, is a father, and nobody, pays attention to that.
Yep.
You know what I mean? I mean, there's no, and oftentimes, the frustration does come in. I mean, when you're in that moment and you're doing what you're supposed to and you're struggling. That's why, the men that I looked up to when I was a kid growing up, and I often say this, I grew up on a street where literally there were no single family homes. There was a man literally in every home. The name of it was the area was called Ledbetter Road, Reese Street. There was all African American families. There was a man in every household. There were truck drivers. There were construction workers. There were people who did everyday jobs. My grandfather was a janitor. Those are the men that I looked up to. Those are the men that I felt that were true champions. The men that I watched that did those things. I remember every one of those men. I remember their names. I remember how they moved. I watched that. And so, but it's something that, for whatever reason, we really don't honor. I mean, when you're looking at success in our society, what are we looking at? I mean, whenever you're looking at person, when they're telling, when a person says, hey, tell me a little bit about yourself, most people, the last thing that they will tell you, the last thing that if you write an article on a person, almost everything comes up that you've done. Your education, your career, your awards, what you're doing, whatever. But very seldom will you see someone write an article saying this man took care of his family. He was a great, great, great father. Everything else doesn't, honestly, in the final analysis, everything else doesn't really matter, because if you are a great father, you're touching more people than a person who claims to be a leader and is not even, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So for me, I think that being a father has to be the most. So why are you more embarrassed driving around in a bucket than you are, not being home, taking care, or cheating on your spouse, or not taking care of your household? Why, you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
It's a trip, man. But anyway, you like the show? All right. Thank you for tuning in for this edition of Justice Watch. We'll see you next week, same time, same place, same.
There's a new nationally syndicated radio program that's sweeping the nation, and you don't want to miss it. Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali, the voice of justice for the people. The focus of Justice Watch is to provide an honest analysis and viable solutions to the criminal and social justice crisis in America and the world from a black, brown, working class, and socially disadvantaged perspective, and to motivate listeners to be informed and part of the solution. Zulu Ali is joined by the Justice Crew, consisting of Rosa Nunez, Michael Clark, Dr. Akil Bashir, and Charito Ali to tackle the most pressing issues. Host attorney Zulu Ali is a former police officer, U.S. Marine Corps veteran, and an award-winning trial lawyer who focuses on representing persons accused of crimes, immigrants, victims of discrimination, and persons seeking civil justice. Find out how to listen to Justice Watch with attorney Zulu Ali at justicewatchradio.com.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now